Welcome to the Italianpreneur podcast. I'm your host, Pietro Ferracini, a startup founder with a passion for practical knowledge. Join me in weekly conversations with young and experienced entrepreneurs where we learn from their mistakes. Please welcome Elissa Gloria. She's an impact-driven woman with a passion for creative problem solving and entrepreneurship. She co-founded Moja, a startup that produces quality underwear with an ingenious social impact. Elissa has previously worked for several NGOs and charitable foundations, packing up the necessary knowledge to start her own adventure. I'm so excited to share with you my conversation with Elissa.
I'm great.
Beautiful. Where does this podcast find you?
I'm in the beautiful city of Rotterdam at the moment in the Netherlands.
Great.
And enjoying a wonderful day here.
Fantastic. So I usually start off by asking my guest a question that will help our audience to get them to know you a bit better, more personally. So what kind of student were you back in high school? Were you the best student, the average kid, the one that does enough to pass, or the kid that constantly struggles to go forward?
I was definitely the child with way too much energy. I threw myself at every opportunity and I think I didn't have a care in the world, I really just went for it and said yes to everything and gave it all 100%.
Gotcha. And how was your performance at school?
It was good. I really enjoyed school. I still enjoy learning, and I was lucky enough to be in an environment that really kind of fostered and supported my growth in many ways.
Great. And I know you spent a little bit of your childhood in Australia, right?
All of it, yeah.
All of it. All of it. And how was the school system there? Did it help you growing the necessary skill set to, keep going forward? Or how do you feel that?
Yeah, maybe something interesting, which is quite different to here in the Netherlands, but not unusual for Australia, is I went to an all-girls school, and it had a Catholic focus. And I think that kind of drew me into the impact world. I had done a lot of volunteer work and a lot of projects in helping others, and really driven, I think, by values of kindness and compassion. And I guess also this idea of stewardship of, taking care of the earth and taking care of the people around you. So I think that's the most exciting thing that I could take out of that experience into like everyday life.
Oh, that's great. That's great to know, because I know a lot of people have prejudice about those types of schools that, only girls school and let's say brought up by the church. I know very well, because in Italy, that's a very common thing as well. But we often forget that there are great advantages in doing that, especially all the values that those schools transmit to the students and that, can last a long time, such as in your case. And that perfectly brings us to my next question. So let's just jump right into it. Can you give us a brief summary of your career, starting from your background in strategy and arriving at founding your own company today?
Yeah, of course. So after school, I went and studied screen arts and marketing. And I think screen arts is just a fancy word for media. At the time, I really wanted to be a documentary maker. And my father actually said, no, you can't just study arts. You need to study business as well. So I did, with the intention of quitting my business study after a year, but I didn't. I actually really, really loved it. And I think this is something I've always really enjoyed, is kind of combining a little bit of creativity with a little bit of problem solving. And kind of using that for change. So after my studies, during my studies, I did my last year of study in Sweden as well. And then I returned to Perth in Western Australia and started working in strategy and marketing for social enterprises and nonprofits as a consultant. And I loved it. Like I really loved the work. It was great. But Perth is a big city of oil, mining and gas. And at the downturn of a mining boom, all of the money kind of got sucked out of small business and startups. So I was left with the feeling that I was capable of more than I could find. And I had a dream, actually, that I moved to the Netherlands. And shortly after, a friend called me and was like, hey, do you want to go traveling in India? I've got to go to a wedding. And I said yes. And then I thought, why am I going halfway across the world, coming back, and then continuing to Europe in 6 months or a year or something? I'm just going to pack up my bags and go. So I did, and went traveling for 6 months, and then came to visit a friend in Rotterdam, and just had a really wonderful weekend. There were lots of pop-up events, lots of I don't know, the government in Rotterdam is so involved in the city's development, which I think is really cool. And it just felt like the right place to land. So I did. And now I've been here for 3.5 years. I started working in marketing as well, and soon started working for a language translation startup, which had a very successful crowdfunding campaign. And then they launched a foundation, which I was lucky enough to lead. Following that, I've done a lot of freelance work, everything ranging from refugee integration to clean energy, anything that creates some kind of impact or solve some problem or challenge for people, either for now or in the future. I get really excited about.
Gotcha. So you're using your problem-solving skills and you're applying it to everything that is connected to having an impact, a positive impact on the world, which is really good, really interesting. And tell us a little bit about your company. How did it started, and what do you guys do?
Yeah, of course. Moja is an underwear company, and for every pair of underwear we sell, we make sure one pair of underwear or a usable sanitary pad is made locally in Tanzania and distributed locally alongside health and hygiene education. So our biggest goal is making good hygiene a reality for everyone. We launched in September, and the reason we started, my co-founder went to Tanzania quite a few years ago and noticed that a lot of the kids there weren't wearing underwear, and started questioning why. And we wanted to do something about it. So we got started. And I think for us, it just makes so much sense, like most of us, and probably everyone listening to this podcast, we have access to underwear. We feel clean and fresh when we wear underwear, and we can change underwear 2 times a day if we need to. But not everyone has that luxury, and especially for girls and women and people who menstruate, not having access to sanitary products when they're on their period is really not a comforting thought. And so we wanted to change that, and hopefully, well, I do believe we are with Moja.
Gotcha. So you're solving the hygiene problems, both in men and women, which I believe something really, serious in the developing countries where people don't have access to those products. And as you said, we feel very lucky. I bet everyone listening to this podcast is wearing a pair of underwear right now and having that luxury. But yeah, let's think for a moment that not everyone in the world has the same luck as we do. Really interesting, really interesting. Thank you for sharing your story. And I wish it's going to inspire more people. Then further down, let's talk about a bit of your mistakes. So I like to ask this question. What is your biggest fuck up in your startup adventures?
Yeah, I'm very grateful enough to have failed at something almost every week or every day. So there's plenty of things to choose from, and plenty of learnings that we've learned. But I think the biggest, challenge, or the biggest thing that we often feel like we're failing with is, our identity. We sit somewhere between a fashion brand and an impact startup, and it's often a bit tricky to know like where that is. And when we launched 6 months ago, we were like, yeah, we're both, you know, we're a fashion brand and we're an impact startup. But that's so confusing because there's so much going on with us. Like there's production in Portugal and underwear and hygiene and sustainability and period poverty and, you know, so many things, entrepreneurship, so many things that we kind of pull together in this model that we have that makes it so confusing for people. And yeah, at one point we just said we can't do it all. And we just said, all right, we're an impact startup that sells underwear. And that's been, I think, really good for us. There's still people who have other ideas. And I think what we've learned is really just to trust ourselves and to stick to our guts, because you can't take everyone's advice and everyone's advice is different. And we've had some terrible advice on the way as well. But yeah.
So
I'm much more confident in that now.
Gotcha. Do you recall a specific advice that was detrimental to your startup? Or that
yeah, my favorite one is you're being too transparent, which I don't think any company can be too transparent. And it's something we're really proud of. We also kind of share our whole pricing breakdowns and our operations all on our website. So yeah, you can go check it out at mojaware.com. But yeah, you're too transparent, you're too ambitious. Like we get a lot of these things, which I think is terrible advice.
Gotcha. So you're telling our listeners, trust your guts, focus on what you do best and what makes you different. Don't try, to fit in a lot of different pants. Just, stick to the one that's your size and it's the one that you like the most.
Yeah,
gotcha.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Super interesting.
Wear your own underwear.
Wear your own. Don't go and borrow someone else. Fantastic. No. Really funny. I'm very curious on how your work in Africa. I know you work directly in Eritrea with one of the foundations that you were working with. How that shaped the view on the world that you have now, and also the business that you're working in right now.
Yeah. In a previous foundation, we were doing a lot of work with Eritrean people, and especially the Eritrean community in the Netherlands, which is a very interesting country that most people have never heard about. So I do encourage you to go give it a Google. But it was kind of eye-opening to how much we don't know about the world and how different things can really be. And unfortunately I haven't been to Eritrea. But when I went to Tanzania year before, I was also quite shocked. I mean, I've traveled a fair bit. I thought I really understood what poverty looked like. But in these remote communities that we were in Tanzania, it was really, just something else. People struggled a lot. They supported each other a lot. And the difficulties they experienced were just something you don't expect to experience.
Can you give us an example?
I mean, when we were there, we partner with a local community organization that supports children. And they, when we were there, had found a child that had a disability who was living by herself in a chicken pen, I guess. And it's believed that her parents left her because she had a disability, which is considered by some as a sign of the devil or a sign of evil or things like that, which is so incredibly awful and deeply challenging to experience. But it's also really wonderful how people still support each other, and that this girl now is in a safe, loving environment around her. So
that's great. Great. It's good to know some stories that have a good ending, or at least we know that this little kid is safe now. And how do they support each other? Because you're talking about this, and maybe it's something that we here in Europe tend to forget sometimes, right? We live our own independent life. We don't live in a village anymore. We live in our own apartments. How is that different from Africa?
Yeah, there's so much more of a community feel. Like people love each other and they help each other, and it's about the common good. And I think in Europe we can be so individual, and sometimes you need to put yourself first and make sure you are healthy and happy before you take care of others. But to be honest, here we're probably all healthy and happy enough to be contributing positively to someone's life in another way. We have the resources to do that, and there's no reason why as people and as consumers we can't be, contributing in another way. And that's also, I guess, why we called ourselves Moja, or one of the reasons. Moja means one in Swahili, which is the local language. And yeah, I guess our model is that we buy one and a pair is donated. But bigger than that, the word Moja is used to say like we are Moja, like we are one, that we're together. And the third reason is because in education, when a child has a question and they put up their hand, they put up the number one.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah.
And tell me a little bit this one-to-one model, and why is it not what you guys are doing, especially?
Yeah, we don't like to use the one-for-one, I guess, analogy too much, because the one-for-one model can be deeply damaging from two perspectives, I think.
Can you first please explain what the one-to-one model is to people that do not know?
Yeah, of course. So the one-for-one model is a traditional model where people buy one product and one product is donated somewhere else. And we think it can be super damaging, first of all, because it often harms local communities and local economies. A product is just dumped and people don't often want it or need it, and it can hurt local producers as well. And the second reason is they often target helping one group, but often at the expense of another. If people are producing a product in a production line or in a supply chain that's riddled with modern slavery and inequality, you are helping someone at the expense of another person. So that we really wanted to change with Moja. And the way we're doing that is by producing a product ethically. Our underwear is made in Portugal, and the EU has great labour laws and environmental laws to help us, along with some other certifications we have there. And then for every product we sell, we make sure local people in Tanzania are trained in entrepreneurship and in sewing, and Moja becomes one of their customers, I guess, and buys underwear and reusable sanitary pads from them. And then the Moja team go out to schools and run a series of health and hygiene workshops, covering all kinds of health education, hygiene, sanitation, puberty, relationships, menstrual health, and really take that from a gendered perspective. So we educate boys and girls always, and the products are distributed alongside that education.
Wow. This is beautiful. It makes me chill, the amount of impact a single startup can have on so many people, so many kids. It's just incredible. Great job for doing that. And let's give something to our audience that is listening to this. So let's say they want to start out their own startup tomorrow, and put yourself in their shoes. When you did that, what is the one piece of advice that you wish you had when you first started up?
I think the best thing you can do is just question everything and never take anything as a given. Always look at every part of your process and ask, how might we make that better or make that more fair, or, transform that? How might we make this more impactful? Because those questions, every time we ask from this kind of perspective, I think allows so much room for positive change and positive growth within our own startup.
Wow, great. Very interesting. So you're saying keep questioning everything. Don't let anything to the faith of things running on its own, and it will eventually spark some positivity and some So yeah, some positive vibe in startup. Very cool. Very cool.
Absolutely. But not asking from a not questioning from a negative perspective. I think we shouldn't be looking at things and saying what's wrong with this. Well, sometimes you do need to, but also saying like, how might we change this? And just that shift in mindset, I think can bring so much.
Great. So also, I would say maybe apply a little bit of science in that. Try to be objective in the things that you're looking at, and always, make sure you're not putting your emotional first. Even though running your own business and separating that from emotion is really tough. I assume in your case it's even more difficult when you're impacting life of young students. So yes, try to be more scientific into that and really take a data-driven approach to strategic choices. Well, Elissa, thank you very much for spending a bit of your precious time here with me on the show. Your story has the potential to shine a light into the emerging world of impact-driven startups, and I really hope someone out there listening right now will take action today and start their own adventure. I know you're also looking for some people to help you out. So everyone listening, don't hesitate to get in contact with Elissa. You'll find all the links in the description of this episode. And stay strong in this difficult time, Elissa. Talk to you soon.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
You too. For the YouTube people, make sure to give a big thumbs up and turn on that notification bell. Subscribe to the channel and follow the Italianpreneur on social media and join our amazing startup community on Slack, where you get the chance to meet the podcast guests as well as entrepreneurs from all over the world. This show is made possible by Patreon supporters. If you want to become one, follow the link. If you found this interview inspirational, I would appreciate a share. Stay tuned, I'll see you next week.